Hey friend, please subscribe and like the video. 1 second for you. A big deal for me. My name is Evan Hale, I'm 31, and until last Christmas I thought I understood the difference between grace and gullibility. It was a Tuesday when my wife Maya looked up from her phone and said, almost like she was asking if we needed more salt, "I invited Noah to your parents' Christmas dinner. He's having a rough time. Be mature about it, okay?" The pot of stew on the stove hissed. I stared at the lid and watched the steam bead, then vanish. "My parents' dinner?" I repeated. "As in my mom's roast, my dad's terrible Christmas playlist, my sister's kids smearing frosting on the dog? That dinner?" She didn't even look sheepish. "He hasn't got family nearby. It would be cruel not to." Context. Noah is Maya's college ex. 3 years together, flames and poetry type of thing, the sort of romance that leaves ghosts. He'd run into him twice in our marriage. Civil, charming, a little too aware of my wife's laugh. I always ignored the static. "You marry a person, not their past, right?" "You told my mom before you told me?" I asked. Maya pushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "I asked if we could bring a friend, and she said yes. You're making this weird." There's a particular kind of sentence that pours ice down your spine. You're making this weird, like your instincts are a tantrum, like boundaries are an inconvenience. "Fine," I said. "He can come." She kissed my cheek. "Thank you for being mature." That night my hands would not stop shaking. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was safe. I told myself 12 other things I did not believe. After Maya fell asleep, I lay beside her and watched the blinking router light paint our ceiling with green pulses. At 1:37 a.m., I made the choice I am not proud of, but I will never apologize for. I took her phone from the nightstand and stepped into the hall. No passcode change, thumbprint still mine, the universe's smallest mercy. Her messages with Noah were like stepping into a house I paid for and finding strangers drinking my wine. Not explicit, nothing you could hold up in court. But the tone, God, the tone. Little movie quotes from their sophomore year, Remember the Rooftop. A photo of a coffee sleeve with his initials. A line that made my mouth taste like metal. Noah. Sometimes it feels like we left the best version of us back there. Maya. Sometimes it feels like I did too. Screenshots. Airdrop to my laptop. Delete the recently deleted. Back to bed. Pretend I didn't see the smoke curling under the door. The next morning, while Maya sang to the dog and tied a red bandana around his neck, I did what hurt and saved me in the same breath. I looked up Noah's life. He was engaged. There she was on Instagram. Elena, a pediatric occupational therapist with a crooked grin and tired eyes in scrubs. A picture on Thanksgiving. Her cheek pressed to his shoulder, caption, "Grateful for you and for the life we're building." A close-up of a simple oval-cut ring. A countdown highlight, 118 days. I stared at the screen so long my coffee went cold. Because if Noah was alone this Christmas, he was alone the way a liar is alone. By choice. At lunch in my car with the heater rattling, I created a burner account and sent Elena a message. "Hi, you don't know me. I'm married to Maya. She and Noah dated in college. She invited him to my parents' Christmas as our guest. He told her he's going through a rough time alone. I thought you should know. If I've misunderstood, ignore this. If not, here's my number." She wrote back in 11 minutes. "He told me he has a work thing Christmas afternoon. Thank you. Can we talk?" We talked. Her voice had that shaking smile brave people use when the ground is moving. She asked questions that made my chest ache. Was there a reason? Did I think it was innocent? Had they kept in touch before? Yes, maybe. And too much, I said. Silence. Then, "If it's okay, I'd like to be there. Not to make a scene. I just want the truth where everyone can see it. I looked at my reflection in the windshield. A man with sleep-colder eyes than last year. "I'll save you a seat," I said. For a week I played the part Maya wrote for me. I asked whether we were taking the pecan pie or the cranberry tart. I nodded when she said, "Maybe we should get Noah a small gift card so he doesn't feel awkward." I wrapped a book for my niece and 2 toy ambulances for my nephew, and stuck a bow on a bottle of Malbec for my mom. I pretended my skin didn't itch where the truth was trying to get out. Christmas morning smelled like cinnamon and stubbornness. We opened gifts on the rug. She gave me a scarf I'd mentioned in October. I gave her a charm bracelet with a tiny enamel coffee cup. We smiled like we remembered how. At 12:58 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown, parking now, red coat, flowers. "E-package?" Maya asked as she looped her bracelet around her wrist. "Just Dad asking if we're close," I lied. We drove to my parents' colonial on the edge of town, 2 miles of bare trees and salt-dusted road. My mom had the front porch garlanded like a wedding aisle. The living room looked like nostalgia threw up in it. Old ornaments, too many stockings, the same ceramic village that's been missing a church steeple since 1999. "Where's my favorite son-in-law?" my dad boomed, which was funny because I'm their only son-in-law. My sister Kayla pried wrapping paper off a toy like it had insulted her. We were barely settled when 2:13 p.m. chimed and the bell rang. Maya sprinted. Her hug with Noah lasted exactly 3 seconds past polite. He brought wine. He brought that rusted charm that makes mothers forget you're dangerous. I took his coat and placed it carefully on the bench like I was setting down a loaded thing. We all drifted toward the couch, the way families do when they know they shouldn't eavesdrop. "Oh man, these little ones got big," he said too loud. "You've met Evan's sister," Maya said, hand on his arm like a placeholder. 2:41 p.m. My phone face down buzzed twice. I stood. "I'll grab that," I said, and walked to the foyer. I opened the door to Elena. Red wool coat, white-knuckled grip on the flowers, eyes like someone who hasn't slept since she learned how to spell denial. "Hi," I said softly. "I'm Evan." "I brought tulips," she said, and laughed once, the kind of laugh that knows it's not funny. "I know it's not spring." "I'll put them in water," I said. "Ready?" She squared her shoulders. "Ready." I led her into the living room. Maya's smile fell off like it had been hooked to a string. Noah stood so fast he knocked his beer onto a coaster, where it rocked and sloshed. A little brown tidal wave. "Elena," he croaked. "Babe, what are you—" "I was invited," she said, looking only at me. "By Evan, since you were working today." Nobody breathed. My dad muted the game. Kayla's phone slid under a throw pillow like it had manners. My mom looked between the tulips and the wine like she needed a new rule book. Maya found her voice. "Evan, what is this?" "This," I said, calm because the truth lends you its spine, "is your ex's fiancé. The one you didn't mention when you invited him to our table. You asked me to be mature, so I thought maturity should include everyone who belongs in the conversation." Maya's face drained. "You went through my phone." "I did," I said. "I found your almosts and your remember whens and your missing honesty. Should I read them?" "No," she whispered. Noah stepped toward Elena, palms up. "Look, it's not what you think." "Isn't it?" she asked. "Because here's what I think, Noah. I think you lied to me about today. I think you enjoyed being someone's unfinished poem again. I think the only rough time you're having is choosing which version of yourself you prefer." Maya turned sharp. "You don't get to come into our family's Christmas and it's his family's Christmas," my sister said, sudden and clear. The room went quiet again, the kind of quiet that hums. I looked at my wife. "Maya, this ends now." Her eyes eyes flashed, but her voice came out small. "You're humiliating me." "You humiliated yourself," I said evenly. "In my parents' house, in front of the people who love me. You can be honest or you can be gone. Choose." She opened her mouth, closed it. Noah reached for Elena's wrist. She stepped back. "Don't touch me." "I'll leave," Elena said and turned to my mother. "I'm sorry for crashing your day." "You didn't," my mom said softly. "You brought the truth. Will you take a plate?" Elena's eyes glistened. "Not today, but thank you." She set the tulips on the console table. They looked like a red apology. Noah followed her to the door, calling her name like a bargain. It didn't sound like love. It sounded like panic. The door closed. Maya looked at me the way a child looks at a broken vase. "Please," she said, "can we talk privately?" "We'll talk," I said, "but not the talk you think." I took a breath that felt like stepping off a curb and finding the ground an inch lower than you expected. "I'm filing for divorce." Her mouth trembled. I didn't. "You invited a former boyfriend to my parents' table and kept his fiancée in the dark. You complained about your husband to him. You rewrote the past and handed it an invitation. You want to be the noble friend who rescues a man from loneliness." But he wasn't lonely, Maya. He was engaged. You knew it. "I didn't know," she said reflexively. "Then why did you tell me he had no one?" I asked. "Why did you tell him I don't get you the way he does?" My sister's inhale was an audible blade. My mom put a hand over her mouth. My dad stared at the fire like it owed him answers. Maya sank onto the arm of the couch. "I didn't sleep with him," I nodded. "And I believe you. But you fell asleep every night in a fantasy where I was small. I'm not small." She stood. "I'll go." No one moved to stop her. She took her coat and purse and left. The garland brushed her shoulder and shook glitter to the floor. The door clicked. Somewhere in the kitchen the oven beeped that the ham was done. The ordinary bell of a day that was not ordinary anymore. My dad unmuted the game. The announcer said something about a comeback. Kayla snorted. My mom wiped at nothing on the counter. I sat down and exhaled. Part 2-3, Min 5:30, 10:45. Dinner was quiet in the way hospitals are quiet. Soft voices, stainless steel, the sense that something large just happened and everyone is pretending to chew like they used to. Kayla texted me across the table even though I was 2 chairs away. "I have the whole thing on video. Want me to delete?" "Keep it," I typed back, for when I tell myself I imagined it. After pie, my dad put his hand on my shoulder, squeezed once and said, "Son, that was the most honest Christmas we've had in 20 years." Coming from a man who thinks feelings are for weather reports, it felt like a small parade. I slept on the old twin bed in my childhood room with the baseball stickers still on the closet door. At 1:03 a.m., my phone lit up the ceiling with apologies I didn't read. At 3:17, a paragraph. "I made a mistake. Please don't destroy us for a mistake." At 4:52, a final ping. "I'm at my sister's. I'll give you space." In the morning, I packed a duffel and drove home with my dad riding shotgun, hands folded, a presence without commentary. We walked into the apartment like men on a bomb squad. On the kitchen counter, a note in Maya's handwriting. "I'm sorry, nothing else." I put it in the trash under the coffee grounds. My lawyer's office smelled like printer toner and lemon cleaner. Her name was Jenna, and she wore her gray hair in a bun like a wick. I slid my screenshots across the desk and watched her eyebrows do a small, bleak dance. "You've got enough for a clean separation," she said. "No kids, short marriage, documented financial history, messages that establish emotional infidelity and unilateral choices about shared life." She looked up. "I'm sorry, but I'm also glad you're here now, not 6 months from now." On the way out, in the elevator's mirrored wall, I I didn't look devastated. I looked convinced. That week, I moved into my parents' spare room. Kayla brought over spare sheets, and the kids colored me a sign that said, Uncle Evan's Fort, and taped it crooked above the headboard. My mom made chili that tasted like third grade. My dad taught me how to patch drywall even though there was nothing to patch. Families love you in the language they know. Maya texted long, then short, then nothing. One mutual friend called to say she was confused and ashamed. Another said, she swears nothing physical happened. A third said, you could have handled it privately. And I said, I tried. She didn't. Elena and I exchanged 2 messages. The first was from her. Thank you. I'm sorry it had to happen like that. I wrote back, you deserved a choice that matched the truth. She sent a heart, not the red one, but the white one, like a handkerchief. 2 nights later, as I was carrying laundry to the dryer in socks because the basement cement hurts my arches, I realized my hands were still shaking. Not from anger anymore, from the echo, from the way a house keeps sounding like footsteps long after the door closes. I sat on the bottom step and cried into a stack of towels like some sitcom widow. Only I wasn't grieving the woman. I was grieving the version of me that would have swallowed it to keep the table intact. He was a good man. He is dead. I am better. Update. Week 2. Maya's lawyer called Jenna. They agreed to sell the apartment and split 60-40 in my favor, based on my contributions and proof of unilateral decisions. Maya moved in with her sister. She sent me one long email. No blame, just an autopsy. I missed feeling like the girl he wrote songs about, she said. You became safe, and I mistook that for boring. I didn't reply. One day I might, not today. Update. Week 3. Kayla, saint of messy grace, sent the family group chat a clip of Dad saying, that might be the most interesting Christmas we've ever had, and 12 laughing emojis. The cousins voted to let Mom approve all non-blood guests next year. It felt petty and perfect. Update. Week 4. Elena messaged, he's moved out. I found a therapist. I keep staring at the ring like it belonged to someone braver than me. I typed and erased 3 different versions of, you're brave now. I finally sent, take care of the girl who sent me tulips anyway. Sometimes closure is a door. Sometimes it's a window. Sometimes it is a vase of red tulips on your mother's console table 3 weeks after Christmas that still look alive, even though they ought to be done. Part 3 to 3, Min 10:45:16 now. February arrived with the particular cruelty of gray daylight and tax forms. I found a 1-bedroom with creaky floors and good light near the park. The landlord was a retired machinist who insisted I take a space heater for the first 2 nights. The radiators like to remember who they are. I bought a cheap couch and an expensive kettle. I stood in the empty living room and listened to it remember how to be a place. The divorce decree came in the mail on a Tuesday. White paper, black letters, a stamp like a gavel. I ran my thumb along the raised seal and didn't feel triumph. I felt final. That night I cooked myself eggs and ate them over the sink like a college kid. I FaceTimed my niece who lost her top front tooth and looked like a jack-o'-lantern. My mom texted a picture of the dog wearing a Valentine bow. My dad sent a link to an article titled Rebuilding After Loss, with no comment, which is his way of saying, I see you. At 11:09 p.m., my phone buzzed. Maya. Last one, I promise. I'm sorry, Evan, for all of it. I can't fix what I broke, but I want you to know I see it now. I hope you find someone who makes you feel chosen in the way I should have chosen you. If someday you want to be, not friends but not strangers, I'd be grateful. Take care of yourself. I read it twice, then put the phone face down and drank a glass of water slowly like patience. I didn't reply. Because forgiveness is not a message. It is a practice. I will practice it on mornings I remember the way her hand hovered over his sleeve. I will practice it on nights I catch myself checking the locks twice. I will practice it when I hear, "Be mature," in someone else's mouth and feel my jaw go hot. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday, I walked to the farmer's market for nothing in particular. There, by a stall with crooked chalkboard signs and a woman selling honey, I saw Elena. She wore a navy coat. No ring. She saw me and smiled the kind of smile people use when they are testing whether the world will crack. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she said. "Do we hug, or do we pretend we're co-workers?" "We hug," I said, and we did, briefly, like cautious friends. Like, we got coffee from the cart and sat on a bench where a kid was feeding a squirrel forbidden pretzels. She told me about her work, how her kids were teaching her patience in 3 languages. I told her about the kettle I splurged on and the way my apartment windows collect sun at 3 p.m. like a chapel. "Do you ever think about if we hadn't known?" she asked after a while. "Like I'd be picking out linens and you'd be reheating leftovers and explaining away a knot in your throat?" "Sometimes," I said. "Then I remember the tulips." She laughed. I panicked at the store. It was red roses, or those. Roses felt on the nose. "Turns out," I said, "honesty looks good in a vase." We didn't make plans. We didn't exchange a promise. We just stood and said, "Take care," like people do when they've seen each other's lives buck and hold. Spring crept in like it was apologizing for being late. I ran in the park. I learned the names of my neighbor's dogs. I taught myself how to fix the wobbly chair with a YouTube video and a curse word my mother would not approve of. I went to my parents on Sundays and watched my dad fall asleep to golf, which is the true meaning of peace. Sometimes, alone at my little kitchen table, I think about that Christmas table and the way the truth walked in wearing a red coat and trembling hands. I think about how easily kindness gets weaponized against the people asked to wield it. Be mature, be generous, be better than your instincts. And how sometimes the most mature thing you can do is pull every person affected by a lie into the same room and let the air do the rest. If you're listening to this and your stomach is living in your throat because someone keeps telling you that your boundaries are ugly, hear me. Boundaries are not barbed wire. They are good fences with gates you control. People who love you learn the latch. Next Christmas, my mother has a new rule. All guests must be approved by the committee. The committee is just her, obviously. But we all nodded like it was the Senate. In the family group chat, Kayla changed the name to Hale House, no surprise X's. My dad sends a thumbs up emoji 3 times a week for no reason. It is healing. And me? I am the man who learned that grace and gullibility wear the same sweater until someone pulls a thread. I'm the man who still believes in tables full of people, in candles and pies and kids who won't use napkins, in second chances and quiet rooms, and choosing the kind thing and the right thing at the same time. Most days are ordinary. I wake, I make coffee, I write my to-do list on a Post-it. I answer my sister's meme with a worse meme. I remember to water the spider plant. I lock the door exactly once. I sleep. But once in a while I buy tulips that don't match the season. I put them in a glass on the sill. I thank the boy I was for wanting to keep the table together. And I thank the man I am for finally standing up, clinking a fork to the rim of a glass, and saying softly but clearly, "This is where the truth sits."